Welcome, fellow anglers, to the Working Class Fishing Podcast, a place for all anglers, amateur or expert, to share their stories and learn about fishing. Join your hosts, John and Brian, each episode as they debunk the perceived inaccessibility to fishing, break down the barriers of any and all angling methods, and hear stories from other anglers and their own journeys with fishing. Now, let's get this show started.
Welcome back to another episode of the Working Class Fishing Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, and here is Mr. John Morris, Esquire. I didn't give him a number tonight with our sponsors.
Welcome back, everyone, to Working Class Fishing. This episode is brought to you by CD Fishing USA, Angry Rooster Fly Company, 317 Flies, Sheer Cure, Naughty Tackle, Lid Rig, and Anadromous Fly Company. Go check them out.
Yeah, make sure to check out all those awesome sponsors. There's a whole bunch of them, and they got a lot of great stuff. So tonight, we have our very special guest on with us. He has his own fly rod company. It's called Whuff Rod Co. We have Dave Huff with us tonight, and Dave is going to talk to us a little bit about what he's doing and everything else. So, Dave, I know you're down in the great state of Texas right now. I don't know how far away you are from John, but we finally solved some of Texas's technological breakdown issues, and we're going to make this happen. So thanks for being on here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's good to be on. And I think as Texas goes, I'm pretty sure I'm probably just right down the road from John, but that's like 7 hours. So
yeah, quite literally 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we've had this plan for quite a while, and this as always, we always plan these out for quite a while, and it's been kind of cool to check out what you got going on and everything else. But just offhand, what are you doing down in Texas?
Oh man, so full-time job. I design and build mountain bike trails, hiking trails, ATV trails, UTV trails. So we're down here in the Spur, Texas area, laying out a bunch of UTV trails. And just trying to get that stuff knocked out. But traveling and, post Texas is where I'm at right now in the hotel room, and the Wi-Fi sucks, but we'll try to get through this. So
man. Whew. Oh, that's pretty cool. So you're getting out there, you're actually helping to build, a trail networks and trail systems and stuff for like multi-use.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, from a hiking trail to a lot of mountain biking trails. That's that's our bread and butter, but do a ton of hiking trails and, ATV, UTV stuff. So it's cool, just multi-use stuff. So definitely cool. I like to, this past year was a cool, crossover thing for me. I was helping the conservation board for my local fly fishing club. Worked for like 5 or 6 years to get some trout stocked in a local creek, and the hill to get up and down, it's like really, really steep and hard to get there. Is a creek I grew up fishing as a kid, and I was able to kind of give back by going and building a pretty sick hiking trail from top to bottom, make it a little easier to get in and out. So the fish stocking guys liked it because they're having to hike them in and out. So that made it a little better. And it was cool to kind of do that crossover, what I do for full-time work and my passion project, which is the Whuff Rod Company stuff. So
yeah, that's super cool. I was going to ask if you had worked on any like trail improvements around any kind of fishing or anything like that, but you just answered that question. So that's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah. It's been awesome, man. I definitely try to get involved in like any kind of stream mitigation, conservation projects. There's another one in Kentucky I've been trying to get my foot in the door on too. So anytime to create a little bit more better habitat for fish and, clean up erosion issues and things. It kind of goes hand in hand with what we do full time. So works out cool.
Absolutely. No, that's super cool.
That's super. That's like some full circle shit, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool, man. Like about the time my body's all done from building mountain bike trails, hopefully I'll be able to retire and just fly fish. So hopefully I won't be, you know, that's kind of my goal with this company is to, you know, build it up slow and you know, put a good product out there, not be a flash in the pan. And I really want to, you know, end up later in life going doing it as a retirement thing, just, you know, doing it till I get old. So
Oh yeah, dude. That's the goal.
yeah, absolutely.
Dave, so I actually heard about you from Chad Bauer and all those dudes.
Yeah.
And Chad specifically is like, if you want a dude that would be fun to talk to, get Dave Huff on. So reached out to you, and that was like forever ago. It feels like now, but
yeah,
I'm glad you're here, dude.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
So I don't know shit about you though, dude. Like, where are you from?
So Northern Kentucky, Petersburg, Kentucky is where I'm from. So not far from Cincinnati, not far from Indiana. I'm kind of like in that tri-state little area. So super Northern Kentucky. That's why I don't sound like I'm from Kentucky. But yeah, kind of get around all over the place, obviously with my work. But met those guys through their podcast, obviously. One of my good buddies, Pogo, had just been on, and kind of the same thing. They're like, hey, if you want somebody, you know, I was like just muskie fishing crazy at that point. Like, I mean, fishing 3 or 4 times a week, you know? So, he's like, you guys should get a hold of Huff. So I did, and did a couple of podcasts with those guys. And obviously we became good buddies since then. So, I'm glad they passed my name along. So,
dude, I grew up like 15 minutes from Scottsville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Which is like the most like super far south.
Yeah. So my wife's from Russellville. So
okay.
Yeah, she's down from your neck of the woods for sure. So, but yeah, man, it's cool when you reached out, because like I've always had like my fly rod company. Like I always tell people, it's like a blue collar worker, like rod company. Like I don't want to ever have like $800 fly rods kind of thing. And I have such a deep background in like R&D, prototyping, engineering stuff. Like I kind of wanted to bring all that, like try to like use those things to, you know, build something that a working man could buy and not just destroy the first time he went out fishing, or just hate it, you know? So you guys fit the mold perfect. So I was pumped to be there.
Hell yeah, dude. So are you still musky crazy, dude?
Man, I'll tell you what, I am. I don't get to fish as much as I used to. So the last few years I've been working full time, like full year round. I used to just build trails from like March to November. And then I took November to March off to like hunt and fish, because those are like pretty much all the good hunting and fishing stuff for me. Yeah. But I got, you know, it just became to a point where I just couldn't fit it all into that schedule I needed to keep going through the winter. So I still get out a few times. Like I built a new jet boat this year, and I've taken it out like 3 times. It's kind of sad, but every time I go home, I just go and start it up just to make sure it's good. So when I do, like, dude, the last like 4 times I've been home, I've tried to go fishing, and it's like either raining the whole time and all the creeks are blown out, or it's like -20 outside. So I'm like I can't catch a break on the fishing weather. So whatever.
So Dave, dude, we know a little bit of what's going on with you now, but how'd you get started in fishing, man?
Man, dude, I've fished my whole life. Like grew up fishing. Like my grandpa was like old, but he just loved catfishing. Like he didn't really care to catch anything else. Like he just cane pole catfishing, you know, maybe some bluegill, farm pond and stuff. But I just remember, like, even as a little kid, like he had this little statue of him, you know, like it was, we called it his statue, but it wasn't actually him, but he was, you know, holding a fishing pole with the fish hanging off of it, you know, and like he always had his goofy Gilligan fishing hat and stuff when he'd go out fishing. So yeah, I just kind of grew up fishing, and I hadn't really tried fly fishing for a while. I tried it a few times in like early 2000s, somewhere around there. And I kind of rekindled it in like 2000, I don't know, like 2008, something like that. And just kind of stuck with it. Obviously got back into it. Trout fishing. I was down in Brevard, North Carolina, and did some trout fishing there and hooked into some big brown trout. And I was like, holy crap, this is actually pretty sweet, you know, a little different. We don't have these in Kentucky, or at least where I was at. So kind of just rekindled like a different way of fishing for me. And it got me back into it because I was, you know, started doing, you know, went to high school and college and just trying to focus on being like, I don't know, an adult professional, but it's just not for me. It's not for me. I'm too much of a play baby. I like being outside. I like hunting and fishing and just doing stupid shit. So
you most certainly can't fault that, because I think all of us have a little bit of that in us, you know, or a lot of it in us. You know, you can't when you find something or return to something that you haven't done in a long time and you find that enjoyment out of it. I mean, you can't beat it. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, I forgot how much fun this was, and you're able to go back and really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, dude. Like catching muskies and big, you know, striper and brown trout's awesome, but taking my nephews to a farm pond and catching 100 bluegills pretty freaking sweet too. So, you know?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. I think that's one of the funnest things is when you get to, you know, reshare that and you get to see that excitement again. I think we all get excited, even though, you know, a lot of people are like, whoa, that's a little fish, you know, and all that. But for that kid in that moment, or that person that's never fished before, just resharing that, you get that experience out of it. That's so much fun. And you know, you can't beat that at all. It's like you get excited like a kid again when you see the kids get excited. It's just super cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When the fish are biting, it don't matter how big they are.
Oh yeah.
No, it doesn't, dude. Like I'll catch anything with lips.
Yeah. Hey, you know, you go dangle any kind of bait out there, and you know, I could care less. You know, you want to go target this species, but your rod gets bent. Yeah, you had a good day fishing.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it's a slow time of year.
Dude, I'm not one of those fly fishing purist guys either. Like I mean, if I'm out in Matagorda Bay chasing redfish and it's 40-mile-an-hour winds blowing, I'm picking up that spinning rod.
Yeah.
So especially this time, this day and age, man, with the limited amount of time I get to fish, it's kind of, I mean, we all prefer to catch them on a fly, but sometimes it's just not the tool for the job. So
and that's, you know, I'm pretty much like live or die by the fly, you know, like there's a lot of days I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? I know there's fish in there, and I know I can go through a net rig and I can go pull every one of them out.
Yeah.
Easy. Have fun. Have a blast.
Yeah.
Nope. I just want to suffer, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, like with like muskie and stuff like that, like I'm pretty much fly only. I went through the whole gear phase and bought all the lures and the big rods and stuff, but I just really enjoy chucking big flies. I just do. I like how they swim. I like building them, you know, like tying a good fly and fishing it. Like that's probably the only species that I would say I'm a diehard fly or die guy in the E-Sox predator world for sure.
Hell yeah. So how did Whuff Rod Company come about?
So I was basically, I got into fly fishing for muskies, and at that time, there really wasn't a lot of fly rods out there for muskies. Like, people were slapping logos on saltwater rods and calling them muskie rods, but like I started doing development and started my business in 2016. And at that time, there was like a TFO Estox, there's a Reddington Predator. And I mean, beyond that, like there wasn't a whole lot of like muskie specific rods. And even those rods weren't really like muskie rods. Like they were, Sage had like a muskie rod or whatever. But like I said, they were all super brittle, super fast salt blanks that sucked at casting a 14-inch Buford that was soaking wet, So I went to school for industrial design. So I had a lot of like R&D, like prototyping. I love doing the product development thing. Like I've done it for companies. I was an engineer for almost 10 years. 8 years of it was contract work. So I worked with a lot of different companies doing engineered drawings, developing, drawings and products for people. So I had that background, and I basically was just like, I didn't like any of the rods that I fished. I bought both of the rods that I knew were out there for muskie, and didn't like either one of them. And I was like, there's gotta be a better wheel out there, and there really wasn't. So the first rod I tried to develop was the 11 weight that I have now, the River Whuff. And I spent a long time like just testing different blanks, and ordering them out of catalogs, and overseas, there's just mandrel. You can just pick the mandrels and figure out which ones you want, and just order the blanks and build a rod, cast it. Nope, this sucks. Build another rod, cast it, change the guide shape and change the guide spacing, figure out how to get the flex and stuff right. And I finally landed with the 7 rods that I offer now, came out of that, 3 years of R&D work to try to get exactly what I wanted. And that's kind of how it all came about, man. I've always been one of those people that I'm really particular about things. Like I like what I like, and I didn't like anything that I could buy. So I'm like, I'm going to make something, and then I got to that point. And so the whole way the rod company name came about was, at the time, she's now my wife, but at that point she was my, my girlfriend. And she would always tell her sisters, that, I lived in this pole barn. It was like a 24 by 48 pole barn on 100 acres. And it was like a mile-long driveway. There's no cell service. I lived, I had a wood stove for heat. So it was like, when she'd come to visit me, she's like, hey, I'm going to visit Dave. If I don't come back, that's where I went, joking with her sisters. And they all called me Dave Huff because my Instagram handle was David W. Huff, and they just thought my last name was WHUFF. So they called me Whuff. So they're like, well, if the wolf gets you, we'll come find you, So like, it kind of ended up being like a joke, but I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'm going to try the fly rod thing. I think I want to make a go of it. And I really love it. And I think this fly rod I built is pretty sick. So I called it the Whuff Rod Co. And it kind of just stuck. And then we started, calling it, all the guys buying the rods and called them the Whuff Pack. And it kind of just caught a little bit of fire. So.
Oh, that's super cool because, you couldn't find what you wanted out there, and then you decided like, okay, I'm going to make what I want instead. And I think, especially in the fly world, that happens a lot because, either something doesn't have the right action for the style or the weight of the flies that you want, or there's kind of like, it's good enough. Right. But for some people, good enough is not good enough. And what you were coming up against was, number one, the rods that you were mentioning are very expensive. They're extremely expensive, which puts a huge barrier to anybody that wants to get into ESOX fly fishing. And the other thing is that it's such a limited selection. It's not like you can get something that'll throw like an 8 weight, but really, has the power of an 11 or a 12 weight. But when you build your own, you can build it like that. You could put a fast action on it. You could put a heavy power set or, whatever you want on that. And you can customize that to like come up with a highly powerful, but highly sensitive rod.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I did. I went through a bunch of different blanks. And like I said, I just started tweaking stuff, man, like figuring out like how the spacing of the guides needed to be and like double foot versus single foot, like all that stuff on a 4-piece rod. All of it changes the way the rod reacts when you're casting a big, heavy fly. Mm-hmm. So I went through the motions and started out, and I didn't really even know what I wanted. It was one of those things where I was like, I just know what I don't want, and it's the things that I can buy. Like, I wish that I could just be happy with those, but I wasn't. So I'm just one of those people that once it gets in my head that I don't like it, I'm not going to like it. So there's only one other option, and it was to try to figure out what I did like. So, and everyone has a different style. There's guys that pick up my rod and they're like, oh man, this thing casts amazing. And there's other guys that wish it was a little stiffer, but I wanted it to be something that was attainable to anybody. And I wanted it to be, I wanted my products to be something where if a guy was working his ass off for 3 months and had a 4-day fishing trip with his buddies, that he could cast one of my rods all 4 days and not wear himself out. That's kind of the whole, I work hard and I fish hard, so if I got 3 days to fish, I'm going to be casting a rod from sun up to sundown and probably into the dark, so it's kind of how it is.
Absolutely. And the fact that you put thought into the average angler, you're not going out to build this for guys that their mortgage is paid by fishing, their truck payment, boat payments paid by fishing. You're making these rods for people that work jobs and they don't have that prestige or the time, or it's just not something they don't want to make a career out of something that they love. You're making a rod that accommodates them. That's a pretty significant thought process in that you would think about that over like, oh well, I want to go for like the most prestigious design of rod that only the pros would really have a true appreciation of. And so these feeble little peasants down here, they have no idea what they're holding in their hand. You made a working class rod.
Yeah, dude. I mean, straight up, that's what I wanted to do. And I mean, honestly, at that point, like the 2016, 2017 timeline was like, that's when Muskie on the Fly was like blowing up. Like it was getting big, and like there were so many people that were like getting into it that like they didn't know what they were getting into, dude. They couldn't handle some of those super stiff rods that were out there. Like the casting styles way different. I was just trying so you got a newbie that's only been fly fishing for like a year, and he's like, oh, I want to try Muskie on the Fly. Like, yeah, good luck, dude. Like some of those rods will like blow your shoulder out if you don't know how to cast a big ass double shank freaking triple hook, whatever they're tying these days, like you're not throwing a Bowen 747 like all day long if you've only been fly fishing for a year and you grab a G Loomis IMX Pro. Like your shoulder's going to be on fire. So great, it's a great rod, but it's not a good beginner rod in my opinion at that time. Like the newer stuff's way better than the old G Loomis ones, but I just remember picking one of those up in the early days, and like I was like, this thing's like a broomstick. So
dude, that's what my 10 weight's like. My 10 weight I use for gar. Straight fucking pull cue. But but I fish floaters. So when I'm throwing a 12-inch fly on a floater, I have to have something super stiff because I really have to shoot it.
Oh
like,
yeah.
As far as I can. And I know that might sound like
You're not talking about water loading, are you?
no, I don't water load.
Okay, just checking.
Hey, there's nothing against it. All right. There's a lot of for a while there, there's still a two-handed craze where dudes are water loaded.
I was just throwing out a few buzzwords, but I don't mind either way. I think it's funny.
But when I teach dudes or when I take them fly fishing for gar, especially dudes that like only fly fish for trout or panfish or haven't fly fished in like 10 years since they were in the fucking Boy Scouts, you know?
Yeah.
It's like strip out some line, and they're like, what do you mean strip out? Pull out some line from your reel.
Yeah.
Wiggle your rod tip. Kind of flip it over until it gets out in front of you. Pull it off the water and throw it back out.
Yeah. The gar targeting gar is pretty fun. I've watched it's an interesting dynamic because they're so hard to hook that, like, I mean, unless you're just using like freaking rope fly or something, like,
yeah,
you know, like, but even then sometimes, like, it's got to be like some of those bigger fish, dude, their teeth are just, I don't know, man. The one I watched, a guy that was with me, it was a super hot day, and I was like, man, I know this. Let's just jet up the river. There's this like oxbow in this river that's like, it's like paradise for gar fishing. Like, you just roll in there and there's gar everywhere, just on top of the water, just sitting there, you know, and you just can cast at them. And he's like a really, really good like fly fishing guy, dude. He travels all over. He goes to Belize, he goes to Arkansas, like on trips and stuff with people. And he was hitting his marks, dude. He was putting them right where he wanted them, and he could not get the freaking, he just could not set the hook on those guys. And he was getting so frustrated. I'm like, dude, welcome to gar fishing. They'll practically eat every time if you can get them to see the fly, but getting them to sticks, it's not the same. So
you have to use
it's awesome.
You have to use really, really thin wire hooks.
Yeah.
Like if you want an actual chance of like a short nose, a spot, or a long nose,
yeah,
you have to use really thin wire gauge hooks. I use rope flies, dude. I use super smart. I fucking fish mop flies too. I don't give a fuck, dude. Like I'm here to catch the fish, but in a sustainable way, you know, like, yeah, fishing is kind of a blood sport, but there's a little more inherent risk when you throw a rope fly to a fish. Like if you don't have the right leaders or you have bad knots, you're going to kill that fish.
Yeah. That's, rope flies are definitely the best way to go, in my opinion, but you got to really lead her up. And yeah, dude, like, luckily so far, I've never had one break off and have a rope in its mouth, but like, it just terrifies me to have it happen, you know? So you got to over prepare. Like, that's one thing I always tell people. Like, I'm not going to say don't use rope flies, because I use them, but I'm also super prepared, making sure to cut everything out and get that fish back in the water healthy. Like, that's the only thing I tell people. Like, if you're going to do it, make sure it's no different than musky fishing. Have the right tools, you know? Like, yeah, like, don't go out with a freaking mop fly if you don't have a glove and all the other shit you're going to need to get all that shit out of their teeth, because you're going to need to do all that. Like,
sorry, my cats are like fucking doing the Daytona 500 in here right now. Yeah. But maybe they'll learn how to turn right here in a couple minutes. But no, man, I mean, that's it. Especially with gar, dude. Like, you gotta get all those fibers out. You gotta leave that fish exactly like you caught it with a rope fly. Like, yeah, it's one of those whole, like, leave no trace things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with muskie, dude. Like, you gotta have your jaw spreader. Like, you gotta have big nets. Like, you have to have the right stuff. You've got to have, like, the right pliers to be able to cut hooks and shit if you have to. Like, big fish, old fish, especially, you know, man, like we all just everyone wants to catch the big fish, but we got to take care of them. And fuck, man, you know that, like you say the same shit, man. Like we got to take care of them.
Yep. It's a resource we got to protect, man, for sure.
Absolutely.
Some of those little bastards, they'll freaking swallow a fly. I don't even know how they get it in their mouth. And those are the ones that suck because they go absolutely bananas. Like catching a 30-inch muskie that has inhaled a fly is like, I'd rather catch, I mean, obviously anyone would rather catch a 48-inch muskie, but when it comes to handling them, those little 30-inchers get you every time.
Yeah, there's something to be said about when the fish, you know, swallows and inhales, and especially with predator species, that's like, you know, they'll come in for that side strike, boom, knock it out, and then come back and inhale. So you get the first hit, and then they come back around, and they're like on it. And when they inhale, number one, when a predator fish inhales, you have teeth to deal with and a very strong jaw. And then, you know, if you're not keeping the fish, you don't want to kill the fish. That's wasteful. So you want to do everything you can to get that hook and fly out of it. And the thing that, you know, you'll always hear these armchair quarterbacks that yell about like, oh, that person's handling that fish too long, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and catch a big fish and have it swallow something. And, you know, especially a fly. Yeah, it's one of those things with stainless steel hooks and stainless steel, you know, wire and everything else. It's not going to rust out. You can't just simply cut it. The fish will die because it's food passage. And so you're basically doing a bankside operation on a fish. And yeah, the smaller those predator fish are, the worse it is. I mean, even fish, you know, small like sturgeon. I have sturgeon where I'm at. If they end up gagging, it's quite the operation. They are a tougher fish, but because they have a suction mouth, you're pulling out their mouth and you're trying to go back into its mouth where it inhaled not only Dacron, but like a 6 to 7/0 hook. And luckily they're barbless hooks, but you're trying like not, if it sucked it back to get close enough to its gills, you're absolutely trying not to do anything. But even with that, you know, it's really difficult. So you get a small sturgeon with sharp scoots, that thing's flailing everywhere. You know, somebody's going to get laid open. You get an oversized sturgeon, and then you have a wrestling match with, you know, a 200+ pound fish, and you're not allowed to take them out of the water. So you're still in its zone. I mean, there's ways to do it, but yeah, you got one hell of a fight on your hands.
Man, I bet you could wrestle a sturgeon.
I've got them into a boat. I've seen one actually dent the housing on an outboard motor with its tail. So they get a little squirrely. And that was one that was a keepable size. This back in the day. It's like a, you know, 48, or maybe no, it was bigger than that. It was like a 57-inch sturgeon. That's when you could keep up to a 60-inch sturgeon. The guy hauled it in the boat and he's like, beat that thing. Of course, the skull's hard. So you're trying to knock it out with the club, and that thing just one whack and it dented that mercury. It's just like boom. It's like somebody slamming their head in the side of a car door. That fish was not giving up, but it was a wrestling match in the boat out in the Columbia River.
Dave, so I've seen some of your stuff. I know you offer like a Euro rod, but what all do you offer? Like
I 10 foot 3-weight, the high stick, that's a Euro rod. It's great for a beginner option, you know. Price point's good, $174. So it's a great entry-level rod. And honestly, I picked the blank that I chose because I opted not to go with a down-locking reel seat on it because you know, somebody that's just beginning or newer to it that's gonna, you know, buy less expensive rod. I wanted it to be castable, and it casts great. You can actually cast it well. It's not like a full-on 100% Euro rod where you just high stick or nothing kind of thing. And it's really fun to catch fish on. I mean, I've got some guys up in Pennsylvania that use it a lot, and I mean, they've caught some big brown trout on it. So and then obviously 9 foot 5 weight, the the roll casters. That's like the staple of any fly rod company, right? So, and then I have a seven weight streamer stick. Really, really great all around rod. I get a ton of compliments on it, like just because I think a lot of guys buy it. It's $179. So they're not expecting a lot, and then when they get out there, like get a message like, "Damn, that rod's really sweet." I think I'm going to get another one for the boat or whatever. So that's always great to get that kind of feedback. One of my personal favorites is the 8-foot 8-weight. That's the Power Glass. That's a glass rod. That thing's sweet. I named it the Power Glass because it's got so much punch to it. When the cicada hatch happened, I had guys like using 10 weight floating line on it for like huge carp and stuff, but like it's just a really, really fun rod to cast and to catch fish with. I'll probably never do like anything bigger than an 8, because I just think anything bigger than an 8-weight glass is just so big and bulky. It's just not fun for me personally. And I don't ever want to just sell something just to fill a void. I want it to be because I like it, and it's I'll put
Useful.
Useful. I don't want to just flood the market with extra shit that because I think someone might buy it. I want to actually like it myself. So. And then we have a 9-foot 9-weight, the strip set that's kind of geared for striper and pike. It's a good intermediate, even some smaller muskie, smaller creek stuff. And then the 11-weight river Whuff and the 12-weight double haul are the two other predator rods. So the 9-foot, the 11-weight, or the 9-weight, 11 and 12 all come with spare tips, just because I know how predator guys are. We're just hard on shit. So, and I think in the future I may actually do an extra tip for the other ones too, because I've had so many people like, "Man, I'm so glad you had that tip in there. I smashed it in the truck, on the way to a trip, and the extra tip saved my trip." So, yeah, that's I don't know. It was just something I thought that would be good. Just once again, it all kind of circles back to that, working your ass off and getting 3 days to fish. Like, dude, how shitty would it be if you drove to Wisconsin, broke the tip off your rod and couldn't fish? It's like,
Yeah.
So like, oh, hey, surprise, there's another one in the tube. Like I had a guy do that. Like he was on a trip. He was in like Minnesota, and he like called my cell phone, because my cell phone's the number on our website. So like he calls, he's like, "Man, is there any way that you can forward or overnight me a tip, blah blah blah?" And I'm like, hold on, like what rod do you have, where are you at, and I'm like, "Well, there's an extra one in the tube, isn't there?" And he was like, "There is?" Like he didn't even know it was in there. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you're good." Like I was like, here's the thing. Like, I'll send you some more tips just so you have spares in case you break that one, but you got one in there. And he looked and he verified it. I was like, just make sure it's in there, And he looked, verified. He's like, hell yeah, So I'm like, sweet. That's exactly why I put it.
Yeah. Well,
oh, go ahead, Brian.
Well, that's a really cool thing to do, because that seems to be the most vulnerable part of a fly rod. I don't know how many tips of rods I've smashed, and it's been on cheap rods and expensive rods. It just doesn't matter. It's like the damn tip breaks on every rod, and it's like, come on, and so that's really nice that you just throw that in there. It's like, hey, you know what? If you don't need it, great. If you need it, great. It's like security and insurance.
Yeah, man. It's I think it's cool. I mean, like I said, I'm planning on in the future, I want to do it with all the rods just to make it a little bit more good for the guys with the smaller, weight rods. Shouldn't be just for the predator size stuff. So,
but it's super good for like those bigger rods, because with full sink lines, and sorry, my chair's all squeaky as shit. Like full sink and even sink tips, dude, that wears out guides so fucking quick, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I use tie minima guides. I know there's a huge push right now for ceramic everything, because they just don't wear out. My tie minima guides don't wear like a steel guide do. I've had a couple double hauls come back. 2 double hauls came back with really bad grooving in the guides. Dude, I racked my brain. I was like, man, I've got hundreds and hundreds of these out here, and these are the only 2 that have done this. And I was, through the process of elimination, both of the guys were kayak fishermen, and they both fished in and out of the kayak a lot. So the only thing I could kind of formulate was that they were picking up a lot of gritty dirt out of their kayak when they were fishing and just not keeping their lines clean. And it was just adding to the wear or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a sitting down style of casting that was doing it, or what. I don't know. I can't put my exact like finger on it, but the only 2 that came back were both kayak guys that were in and out of their kayaks a lot. And it's just a dirtier way of fishing. There's just no doubt about it. So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, the river wolves, I haven't had any of those come back with any wear. Some of them are probably, I mean, they've been out in their market for almost 3 years. So,
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ceramic guides are awesome. You can't really, it's hard to find them. And, the thing I've considered doing the tips, because the tips are, the most vulnerable, obviously.
Yeah.
But the thing about the tips that I haven't really liked is that those ceramic guides, if you pull your knot or anything through there, or an ice ball, like, you run the risk of popping that ceramic insert out. Like, it's not, it's not in there like forever. Like, those ceramic inserts pop out too. And then your line is literally subjected to a razor blade almost. And it's for sure shredding it if you don't notice it right away.
Yeah.
So I think there's pros and cons to either one, I personally went with, I just went with what I thought was going to be the best overall, for a well-rounded product. My strip set does use the Fuji ceramic guides, but they're not inserts. They're like laminated into the guide. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, most of the warranties are, I stuck it in a ceiling fan, which I always heard stories about that, but I thought it was like a joke. But no, that's real. Like, after being a fly rod company owner, I'm like, holy shit, people actually do smash their fly rods with ceiling fans. So, yeah. But my wife's like, are we really going to warranty this? I'm like, yes. I mean, he's going to pay the replacement. I'm like, it's what happens, I guess. Dude was stoked to go fishing, I guess, and just
got in a hurry. I grabbed the rod and shoved it right up in the ceiling fan. I don't know like what all of the like wildest damage stories are out there, but it sounds like ceiling fans won. What's the worst rod damage story that you have?
Those are pretty basic. I had one guy, he was trying to get his 2 pieces apart, and he was doing the behind the leg trick to get him unstuck, and smashed one through his wall and broke it off. So I don't know if he just didn't think that it was gonna work, so he's in a confined space or what, but I'm just imagining him like Hulk smashing a 5-weight tip through like a whole hotel wall or something. But that was pretty funny.
Oh man, just the things that people do. I I see rods fly off trucks. Like, you're familiar with those, like, they go on the front of the hood and they go up on the cab.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen people where they're flying like a bat out of hell down a gravel road, and here goes like this rod, and it just goes twirling off, and it does like this whole spinning hit, and it hits the road, and it kind of pops into 8 pieces, and you're like, well, that was originally a 4-piece rod, now it's an 8-piece rod.
Yeah.
And you just know that they're upset because it's probably a really expensive rod. If they've went the whole route to get the rod holder on the hood and everything else, it's kind of funny though, just seeing some of the stuff that happens. I have a friend, they were in a jet boat. Well, it's called a power drifter, and they were flying upriver, and they went sideways into a rock, and all their rods went and just splattered all over the gravel bar and shattered. They broke. Well, I not all of them, but they broke like 5 rods, and the boat was completely fine, completely pristine, nice, shiny, everything else. But the rods were like all over the bank in pieces.
Huh. Yeah, those are the guys that probably call like, yeah, I mean, dude, it broke. I strip set it and it just broke,
Yeah.
like it's all good. Man. It's
man.
part of fun. Breaking rods is just part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it.
I broke 3 now.
Yeah, I broke 2. Couple 2, 3. I mean, it just happens. Where do the majority of your rods end up? Like, where's your largest market at?
Oh, man, I got a ton of guys in Pennsylvania and Canada. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, I've got such a good following in the like ESOX, like muskie side of stuff. Like, I mean, obviously SVS was a huge help. And then I've got a good amount out in like Utah for some reason. There's a bunch of dudes out there, carp fishing guys and pike guys that really like the 8-weight glass and the 9-weight rod. And then the rest of them are just kind of spread out. It's been a little bit slow lately because I have honestly just haven't been marketing super heavy because inventory's been so crazy. The River Wolf's been out of stock for a long time, and I know guys are wanting it. Like, I get freaking calls and messages and emails all the time. When's it going to be back in stock? And I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, I engineer all my rods and spec them out, and I get them made overseas. And the market overseas is just crazy right now. I could have rods in a month if I wanted to have them, but I'd have to go with suppliers that I had no clue who they were, where the materials were coming from. It's all like tier 3, tier 2 stuff. It's not top level product. So I've opted to wait for the supplier that I know that's made all my other stuff to get the product and the materials that I know are good. And unfortunately, it's just taken longer, but I got a huge order coming. It's going to be another four months before I get it, but I'm just not willing to sacrifice quality and gamble on it. I'm not a huge company. And I got my name literally as part of the company. So I just don't want to sell it just because I can get it. I want it to be exactly what I need it to be. And I want it to be the same quality that I've sold up to this date. And my name's riding on it. So I'm going to let it ride a couple more months. And when the stuff comes in, hopefully people still want it. So,
yeah.
Well, I'm sure they will, dude. So what
Yeah.
what does your warranty look like?
So the warranty is it's a 1 year, no questions asked warranty. Beyond a year, it's a replacement cost. So it's $45 for the 7-weight and under, and it's a $65 replacement cost for the 9, 11, and 12-weight stuff.
So is that like per section? So let's say I, theoretically hook a stop sign on my back cast and never done this, and just completely blow up my rod on my forward stroke. I blow up 2 sections. So is that does that mean $130 for 2 new sections, or is that 65 for the whole rod?
$65, you're getting a brand new rod and a new case.
No shit.
Yep. It kind of goes back to the small rod company thing. I don't want to have a bunch of random ass parts sitting around. And also, it's really, really hard to match blanks. Like, even though it's a 12 weight, like they're not all the same. They're just not. No. And it's way easier to just, I don't want to send somebody a headache, 2 pieces that look like they fit, but never really quite fit like the old ones. So I keep them all together. I keep all the parts mated for life, like a freaking duck, like it's going, you're keeping it together, So I just usually I send a return label in the box with the new product and ask the customer to return the old stuff just so I can inspect it, look at it, see if I can figure out if it was a catastrophic damage from quality. I want to see what happened. And if not, like I got a whole box of broken rods. I'll probably do something funny with them one day,
Yeah. Make a big collage of all the broken rods and everything else, and maybe put a little bit of a story next to how they all broke. Like this one hung up on a stop sign. This one flew off a truck at 40 miles an hour. This one, got put through a wall, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'll just combine them all, and that's how you get the double strip wolf.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what has been, I guess, circle back a little bit on fishing, a little bit more about you. What has been like one of your most memorable catches?
Shoot, man, that's tough. Honestly, I've had a couple, but I'd say one of my most memorable catches was me and 4 of my buddies were down in Tennessee floating. It was one of my friend of mine's birthday weekend. We did a 3-day float with friends, and it was like bottom of the 9th, and like the other boat had caught like 2 or 3 fish, and we were just behind, and like it's the end of the float. We're like one hole away from having to stop and get out. And it's like, damn, dude, we fished 3 days and haven't caught a fish. And I put a different fly on, and I was like, I called my shot. I was like, this fly is, I'm casting over to that log, and I'm going to catch this fish on the second strip. And like, no shit, this freaking like 34-inch fish, like, which was the biggest 34-inch fish I could ever have imagined at that point in my I casted it, beautiful cast. I strip it 2 times, and this fish just comes out of nowhere and just side swipes it and then inhales it. And my buddy Moskin's like, you gotta be shitting me. Like, so, I was like, I think that one was pretty cool just because like I called it and I was like, man, I need this fish. And like, they usually don't respond when you talk to them like that, but
well, if you ever hear back from a fish, let me know. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Just usually a big middle finger.
Yeah. That's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Oh man. You don't have salmon where you're at. At least I don't think there is, but when they jump, that's like them flipping you off because they're there.
Yeah, we don't have those down here. We got to go like 4 hours to get to salmon.
Yeah.
You can get some salmon at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
That's about it though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when they're jumping and they're all piled in a hole and you're running everything through them and you're like, I know this works. And then they're just jumping. Yeah, they're just giving you the finger, man.
Yeah, trying to get past you. They don't
exactly
do with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm looking at the time. We're coming up close to our hour here. Man, so much to your company and so much information too. And it's really cool that you've come up with the rods that have such a good price point, you know, where they're available for anybody. I mean, to think of a Euro rod for $179, I mean, that's a very reasonable price. And just looking at the rods you have awesome, you know, beautiful colors, beautiful handles, everything else. You know, what was the main, when you started pricing these rods? Because I think a lot of people, they look at the price and they're like, oh God, you know, that's so expensive. But when you start pricing these rods, what was your main objective behind that?
I think the biggest thing was I was super active in my local fly fishing club, and we were getting, at that point, we were getting like 8 to 10 new members every month coming to the meetings. And what was happening was they were super pumped on fly fishing. They loved learning how to fly fish and love how to cast and, you know, tying flies. They'd go to the local fly shop and they'd come out of it with like, you know, thinking that they'd be like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me $1,200 by the time I buy waders and, you know, boots and this fly rod and a reel, and lines are $100. Like, you know, so it's like that was one of the motivators for me to like, man, I really got to get a solid rod out there that casts awesome and performs and isn't going to break the bank for people. So that's kind of where it came from. And I mean, luckily, you know, the whole pro thing's funny to me. I get messages about, do you have pro deals, and do you, you know, sponsor, you know, guides and this and that. And I just basically say, you know what, man, like my pro deal team is the Whuff Pack. Like, buy a rod, become a member of the Whuff Pack. If I give you a rod or give you 50% off of a rod because you're a guide, then I just have to mark my prices up to cover that. And if we're a small company and I don't have the availability to do it, you know. I guess I could, but I don't want to. Like, you know, like maybe down the road we could look at it, but for now I want to keep my prices to where they are. And to be honest, like if I'm gonna have to cover some extra costs, I'd rather give 4 or 5 rods away to a fishing tournament and get my name out there and do it for a good cause versus, you know, giving somebody a discount code and then they buy one for all their friends. And, you know, it's kind of, I don't have anything against it. I want to try to keep my prices where I can. And that's one way for us to try to honor that as well as we can.
No, that's
Dude,
cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I get that, dude. I used to make soft plastics. Like, I was hard up for it, dude.
Yeah.
And constantly, everyone's like, hey, you want to sponsor me? You want to sponsor me? It's like, dude, I can't afford to do that. Like,
yeah.
I would love to sponsor you, but I cannot afford to do that.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Some people don't like it, but you know, for me, like I was raised to earn everything I've got, and like I'm pretty sure if a guide hit me up and was like, dude, can I get a couple, you know, rods for free? I fish 300 days a year. If I was like, yeah, man, sell like 5 rods for me and I'll give you the 6th one for free, they'd be like, nah, no thanks. You know, like, like they want it up front, you know, and then by that time, you know, 3 months down the road, they're posting about TFO because TFO has a new rod out or whatever. So it's better for me to just not muddy the waters with it and, you know, stay neutral in the whole thing. I mean, like the last time I went to Wisconsin, you know, I hung out with the guys from Muskie Full. I stayed at Tommy's house from Chippewa Rod. Like, we're great. Like, we're good friends. Like, we're not great friends, but like if he called me tomorrow, I'd help him do whatever, you know? So like, we're in the same world and he has a great product. I have a great product. And I just want to be able to do that neutrally for everybody, you know? So, I just think the Instagram world and the, you know, the pro deal thing is it's just not for me. So
Understandably, dude.
Yep.
And Instagram, like Instagram and social media is blurred that line. Like so many people forget that pro doesn't mean professional, and most of this it means promotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you're literally just advertising.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that it means people follow you. It doesn't mean you're worth a fuck. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. There's,
Yeah. I think,
yeah, dude. I want to respect your time. You know, this has been fun, dude. Like it's been really nice to sit down and learn more about how Whuff Rodco came about and more about you, dude. And we'll have to have you on again, man, and just talk some more, dude.
awesome, dude. I appreciate it. I do want to say I got some new rods coming out when my other stuff shows up. I've got a coming out that's going to have an extended fighting butt. It's called the Fish Whistle. And then
yeah.
I'll have some other colorways in the River Whuff and the double haul. Because I know there's some dudes out there that aren't super pumped on the bright orange wraps, and they kind of want to keep a lower key. I'm going to have some other colorways. The River Whuff's going to be like an army green with black wraps and gold lettering. And I haven't landed exactly on the coloring yet for the double haul. But it'll be something a little more subtle, but still kind of badass, you know. It's not going to be black on black or, you know, anything, you know, that someone else has already done. I'll try to keep it a little special. That's one of the things we try to do is it was cool when we did Fishing the Beast of the East tournament. All those dudes had like there's so many boats up there with my rods like in their rod holders, like you can immediately see the like fluorescent orange wraps, you know. So it was cool to see them all flooding the river for that tournament.
So well shit, how was the Beast this year? I heard it was fun, but the fishing was fucking tough, dude.
Dude, the Beast is a grind. Woo. It's a grind. I mean, it's musky fishing. It's just this year was, I think they're getting better. I mean, more fish were caught this year, but they were all caught like at the same, like within a couple hours of each other. What they did something different this year too. They did the day before the tournament, the Corps of Engineers bumped the water up and then left it bumped up for the entire tournament, so we didn't have to worry about the flows. But like, what really needed to happen is probably they needed to bump the water up like 2 days before the flows or before the tournament, so like the fish could like chill out a little bit,
like a week maybe.
Yeah, they freaking bumped that dam, and all the fish that people were moving the day before, like, we're fucking like, what's happening? We're going back to our spots, you know? Like, and then like the last like half day of the tournament, the fish started turning on and eating again. So I think if they did it again and they wanted to do that with the Corps of Engineers, which is badass that the Corps is willing to do that, so we have safe water to run those rivers, because the Allegheny is like pretty sketchy to run if it's low. There's a lot of boulders and stuff. So I think if they just bump it up a few days before to let those fish chill out a little bit more, it'd be a little bit better productivity. But I mean, all in all, it's run by a great group of guys and for a great cause. You know, Muskies Inc. They stock a lot of fish from that tournament, so it's all good.
Yeah, dude, I'm Cap City's Muskies Inc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, dude. But so you got a new rod coming out. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Like, where can everybody find you at, man?
WhuffRodco.com, or Instagram at WhuffRodco. Also have Facebook. It's all kind of linked together, obviously, these days. Yeah, dude. If you try to reach out about a rod or anything, you're gonna either get a hold of me or you're gonna get a hold of my wife. If it's a phone call, you're getting a hold of me every time. Yeah, I'll talk fly fishing for a half hour. Like, I'll stop my machine in the middle of the day and talk about fly fishing. So I love getting calls. Like, sometimes it's not productive if I'm in a hurry, but I'll still take the call. And if someone's like, "Hey, is this Dave from Whuff Rodco?" Like, "Yep," and answer your question. So definitely hit me up. Yeah, dude. I definitely want to send you guys some rods. I think you'd really enjoy the 7-weight and that 8-weight glass. So shoot me a way to get you guys some of those so you can test them out and just see what you think, because I think they'd suit your all's fishing style for sure.
Well, dude, you really don't have to, but I mean, if you're just hell bent on it, I'll happily test out a rod.
Yeah, man, for sure. I definitely I like to get them in fishy dudes' hands. So,
that's not these hands.
Yeah, not mine either.
Yeah, it's all good.
For real,
Well,
man.
I appreciate y'all having me on, and yeah, I look forward to chatting more. And next time I'm down in the area, we'll have to link up and fish.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. John, you want to run through those sponsors again?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. Go check out Dave Huff at Whuff Rodco on Instagram, Facebook, all those places. Check out #WolfPack. You can find out all the catches, what everybody's doing with all his rods. This episode of Working Class Fishing was brought to you by CD Fishing USA, Angry Rooster Fly Company, 317 Flies, Sheer Cure and Naughty Tackle, Lid Rig, and Anadromous Fly Company. Go check them out. They've got codes for you. They've got a lot of really affordable products. They're small businesses, and it would mean a lot to us if you'd go support them and show them some love, even if it's just following them on Instagram and saying, "Hey, we heard about you from the podcast." That means a lot. And everybody, all the reviews that we've been getting on the podcast, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I want to reiterate this real quick, because I went on a live stream last night on Instagram. If you do want to come on the podcast and you message us and we don't get back to you, don't be like, "Well, I talked to them, but they didn't get back to me." That's your own damn fault. If we didn't respond, we probably missed it. We got a lot of people talking to us. So please reach out to us again, and don't put us out there in a negative light on a live stream because we're busy. Well, we work full-time jobs, like that. We do this for fun, but we do want you to come on the podcast. So if we don't get back to you, reach out again and we will get back to you. All right. So don't get your undies in a wad over that. But just everybody, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for all the support, all the reviews. It means a lot. It really does. Go check out our website. We've got blogs up from Willie Gray and all those cool folks. And Brian, you got anything, dude?
No, that's it. Just make sure you reach out to us through our email, workingclassfish@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and at our website, workingclassfishing.com. You can find all of our cool stuff over there. So with all of that being said, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day.